Welcome, welcome. This is another try at the just get something out in the mornings kind of thing. I'm going to try to do it every day this week, at least 4 out of the 5 days, and then reassess afterwards. This is Chaos and Comics, the morning comic book check-in. My name is Chris Sarda. Find me at Chaos and Comics on Instagram and Twitter. And hey, this is really just a potpourri thing. I have this idea where I like the reviews to be very focused. I do like doing those lightning round things. They seem to be more popular with the people. All like 50 views I get, but I like to give the full 5 minutes and think through reviews. But in this case, I just wanted to see how it worked out if I just talked and said some of the things that I probably say on Twitter or Instagram anyway throughout the day, and maybe just say them here and see how that goes. It'll be a big mix. It'll be comics, especially when I get a whole bunch read. I will definitely be talking about comics here. So in that sense, it'll be a little bit of a lightning round comic review thing occasionally, but also just all the stuff that's happening in my mind in the culture that I want to talk about or see or talk to you guys about, especially. So I'll hop in. I think this will be a shorter one. I'm trying to get these all under half an hour. So a few things I'm going to talk about today. The Diamond Retailer Summit, which is, could be meaningless. Who knows? The big two aren't there anymore. So that matters, right? That matters. And What If is coming out in like an hour from when I'm recording this. So when you guys are watching this, some of you will have watched oh no, wait a second, it's Monday. I'm lying. It's coming out in 25 hours, but maybe preview the new one. And we just watched the last two on Saturday. So we missed a week, and then we watched Homeboy Thor. I'll talk a little bit about Star Wars Visions. I haven't really started that, but I think What If and Star Wars Visions sort of have the same concept, the same idea, and it's something pretty refreshing. And then I'll talk about a comic. I actually have a few comics that I've picked up, but maybe I'll wait for those tomorrow. Like there's a few things to talk about, those that either I picked up or I've read or I thought was interesting enough to show. But I only got through one comic today. Like I said, the kid has bronchitis. I stayed home from work. I worked, but I worked from home with the kid. And so I didn't read too much. Not that when I'm at work I can read, right? But I can read at lunch or whatever. I'm not taking care of or worrying about getting something done while I'm taking care of the kid. But let's start right off. Let's go to this very good review of what happened. This is on comicsbeat.com. So this is actually a pretty good website. And I want to make sure that Heidi McDonald gets the shout out here. She has been to a number of Diamond Retail Summits, as she says in the article, which you can go find. I'll put the link in the description below, but we'll go through a lot of it. So you should just click the link so that she gets a click. This is, I've worked with lots of CFOs and CEOs across the board, from very small companies to very, very big companies. And this guy looks like, this is Stan Geppy, I think his name is, Steve Geppy. Sorry, this is the CEO of Diamond, and he looks like the dude that takes my order at Midas when I'm like going to get my oil change in my car looked at. But he's the CEO of Diamond. I thought it was a whole family that ran it, so I might be wrong about that. Or the CEO might be a different person. And they're going to talk about comics here too. But I think one place to start is that Steve Geppy here spoke, and Heidi says that nothing too newsworthy was said. But of course, Diamond had a banner year, but he wishes that he could tell everyone about the new and exciting projects. And who knows what that means for Diamond. I mean, new and exciting stuff coming out when you lost Marvel and you lost DC in the last year, and you also lost IDW, I guess, too. but nothing much happened. And you know that there's like BS going on when they explain to you who they're working with, and it's Chase and a big law firm and Price Waterhouse Cooper. Like that's just not very relevant, to be honest. So Diamond falling off a little bit isn't a big deal to me. I think that they're going to be around, just much smaller. And hey, to be honest, maybe they'll be able to pay attention to the smaller companies that are that publish with them now. So half the book used to be DC and Marvel, and now Image is going to be their biggest retailer in previews. And maybe some of these other ones that were, stuck in the back, Green Pages, will now get a little bit more focus, more interviews, more space for ads and stuff. So the fact that Diamond has contracted is meaningless to me as a reader. And in fact, what happens is when something like, when you get an article like this, it might have been filled with a lot of Marvel and DC stuff. It might have been so big that you would have to do Marvel and DC alone. But instead, you get a little bit of focus on some of the other semi-large ones like Aftershock, AWA. I'm surprised that Image wasn't mentioned here at all. But yeah, let's get started. So there is a thing to, I guess this works here. There is a movement to just reinforce that the comic publishing business is fine, right? And a lot of it truly is manga and young adult stuff. So like the dog things and Hagelmeyer and stuff like that. Nonetheless, a lot of creators get in fights with like right-wingy types, like Comicscapes types on Twitter and whatnot, about how the strength of the comic book market, and then that right-winger guy always goes, but that's manga. You're taking into account manga. You're taking into account Renee Hagelmeyer or whatever, right? And not that guy doesn't have a point, but a lot of these companies have reported an increase in revenue or sales compared to 2019. Of course, 2020 is a black hole for a lot of them. So it would be the best if you're doing any kind of like financial analysis now. 2020 is going to be like sort of the bane of your existence for the next few years, because anytime you do like 5-year running 5-year averages or something, obviously 2020 is going to really knock that off. But they compared 2019 to 2021, and sales are up 37%. I mean, if you just see what one Aftershock comic, #1, that is now $4.99, costs compared to the $3.99 version, that's about 25%. So just selling those, if it didn't affect unit sales or affected unit sales very low, just that is the vast majority of it. And there's a couple of us that always mention that we don't buy Aftershock #1s because we don't like the $4.99 price tag for a 20-page comic, 22 pages at most, but a lot of those are just 20 pages, and to charge us another $1 for the cardstock. And it feels like they started putting the cardstock on later issues also, which implies that it sort of worked, that people just paid for it anyway. Despite that happening, I suspect that a lot of people that are buying like stacks of comics and stuff don't pay attention to that extra $1. And I would say that is, my guess is that is the reason for the sales increase that Aftershock had. I mean, they could have put out more books. I don't know that it was better quality necessarily, but there was a price increase, per unit price increase, which definitely matters. So if we come down here to Aftershock, it was a 37% increase, and I was really surprised by one of the books that they said was driving the sales. So We Live does not surprise me, by Inaki and Roy Miranda. And they were someone, that was a couple brothers that were interviewed widely in the community. A lot of good people interviewed them. And then the other one is Bunny Mask, and that one surprised me. And among my group of people, there was definitely a lot of bunny mask fandom, but it didn't feel like it just sold like crazy and everyone was reading it. But according to their interview in the Retailer Summit, that was the case. My feeling is still like Dark Arc and Animosity are their huge sellers, but I mean, that might be wrong. The good news is that they are both returning in 2022, and you're going to get We Live. It's going to be a new title called Era of the Palladians, which is I'm going to go with We Live. I'm going to continue to read it. I was one of those people that loved the entire book for We Live. Definitely felt like a new version of Miyazaki, like Princess Mononoke type stuff. But the end turned me off a little bit, but I trust it enough. I think they did a good enough story that I can bite my lip and continue to read it. But I am one of the people that was more disappointed with it. And Bunny Mask was really weird. I accidentally skipped some of these later issues. I have 1 and 2 and maybe 3. I can't remember now. But it was really weird and really fun. And for that to come back would be interesting. Hopefully there's like some explanation about what happened there. So, and then after that, they didn't really, they didn't really say anything that was massively interesting as far as what's coming out. Now, this is Chicken Devil. That does look cool. This is something I would hold back on buying because I don't know Brian Buccellato very well, but it seems something wacky enough that it might work for me. And then a couple other things that could or couldn't, it depends. Cullen Bunn writes a whole bunch of stuff. My Date with Monsters, Miskatonic. I meant to get this trade and I did not pre-order it, so now I have to go probably look for it. And then a lot of people love Maniac in New York. This one's called Bronx is Burning. I heard mixed things about the ending of it. So a few returning and sequels in the Aftershock world. And next up is Heidi only covers 3 here. 3 or she covers more than 3 publishers, but I'm only going to talk about 3 publishers. The next up she talked about was AWA. So Not All Robots is doing well. That's great. It's one of my favorite books. And then for those, I know some people were reading Telepaths, and Knighted didn't sound that interesting to me. But the real star of the AWA world is John Lee to me. And John Lee was in the initial wave of AWA books, and he did Hotel, but spelled hotel like hell, H-E, with 2 L's at the end. And that was one of the better anthologies. And I liked it better than Ice Cream Man. That's hard to say because there's only 4 issues, right? And there's definitely a bunch of Ice Cream Man issues I love. So, Ice Cream Man's done it more consistently over the 25, 26. But I mean, Hotel was tight, scary, weird, great art, interesting art. And I thought it was done really well. So Hotel is coming back. There's going to be a Hotel 2. Hopefully they just keep the same number of L's in the title. And then the next thing that looked crazy interesting to me, and I put this on Twitter last night, is The Crimson Cage. So this is also by John Lees. And in my mind, he won this. He won the this article at least. And so, I mean, does a wrestling book seem that interesting to me? No, although I think wrestling sort of fits comics pretty well. There's been a couple wrestling books out there that have been fun. But this one's Crimson Cage, and this is how they described it here. It is a retelling of Macbeth set in the 1980s Southern wrestling territories. Even Heidi over here says, okay, sold. What's even crazier about this a little bit is that John Lees is very British. I always feel like wrestling is the thing I got to explain to other cultures, like professional wrestling. But John Lees is writing Crimson Cage, something by a Macbeth retelling. And Macbeth is easily the most retold Shakespeare story, right behind Romeo and Juliet, of course. And I'm curious. I mean, this grabbed me. The cover is awesome, and it grabbed me too. So my favorite Shakespeare character is definitely Lady Macbeth. for the way she goes crazy, feels, you know, how evil she is, and then her descent into madness, essentially. And so I'm curious how that works in to the Southern wrestling territory, a Macbeth based in the Southern wrestling territories. It's a real stretch. Now, the last one I'm going to talk about before we move on here is Mad Cave, and Mad Cave is great. I mean, since they've come out, they've put up a lot of great stuff, and you know, gave a chance to a lot of great creators. Shout out to Villainous and a whole bunch of other stuff. Like Mad Cave was the reason I didn't read all of Mad Cave, is I just want to spend that much money essentially, and but I enjoyed everything I read, and it's, you know, much like AWA, it's put together by a lot of a few comic, you know, veterans that sort of know what they're doing, and they figured out how to, you know, publish comics on a real small scale. And I'm sure they hope that eventually some of these get much bigger and pay off in a different way, so that they continue to make comics. But I didn't love what I read here for what's coming. Oh yeah, see, there's way more than 5. There's Dynamite that I don't even want to talk about. Pantha, who gives a shit. Hell Sonia, I guess that sounds okay. I mean, what's the over under on covers for Hell Sonia number 1? 38. But let's jump over to Mad Cave now. That there are 6 bullet points there, and not one of these comics sound interesting in the least. Like they all sound terrible. And hey, maybe they're gonna end up being great. But the last session, a group of friends reunite to finish a D&D session, which gets interrupted by a newcomer. Ah, okay. And we're gonna do 6 issues of this, or what? Speed Republic. In a dystopic, this is almost like a April Fool's joke. In a dystopic future, people struggle to win a race. I mean, they're not going to be racing to get this off the shelf. Obsidian Tomb, a prison drama. Maybe that's great. I don't know what to tell you about that. There's not enough there. You know, a prison drama, that sounds whatever. Potions Inc., a young potion maker. Does that even sentence make sense? A young potion maker, time from another world, travels to Seattle in 1992 to save his world. So, I mean, there's probably going to be some grunge mix in there. And then Nightmare in Savannah, a high school drama, complicated by fairy blood. So, I don't know. None of that sounds great to me. And then, you know, the Maverick, a kid's line, which I've heard about for a while now. So who knows how that's going to work out. World Class, a teenaged Colombian soccer star goes to Europe to play on a junior team and must adapt to his new setting. That's deep. Good Game, Well Played, saving a video game store from landlord troubles. So as great as Mad Cave has been, either that list of books is when I was reading them, I was like, there's got to be one that I could say, well, I'm going to buy one for sure. But that list of books sounds terrible. Like they need to find someone to rewrite their copy, or at least do a mini solicit there, because not one of those sounded interesting to me at all. So that was the Diamond Retail Summit, and you know, it matters for the simple fact that Diamond has gotten much smaller now that they lost IDW, and you know, I guess they lost Marvel and DC also. So it does matter, but I think it could be meaningful to people that really don't give a shit about the state of the comic industry, because it's big enough now that it's not going to disappear as far as me buying stuff. I mean, I care about my retail stores and stuff like that, but there's a point too where I see the people that own my shops and the people that work there and be like, maybe you'd be better off. Like, you feel like you have this cushy job that doesn't pay that well, but it's cool. Maybe you'd be better off if you had a bad 3 months because you got laid off and then you went and found a better job. But no, I don't want them to lose their jobs, and I'm happy. One comic store I go to, the guy had just gotten sick of working in casinos, and he just wanted to do something different, and he opened a comic shop, and he loves it. And he tells me every time I go in there, there's no way you're going to get rich doing this, but it's better than where he worked. So, so let's get into a little bit of comic-ish television. So 2 big shows. Well, one has been on now 5 or 6 weeks, which is What If, right? And then Star Wars Visions also came out on Disney Plus, and they dropped like 15 episodes, even though they're not very long episodes. They still dropped 15, and those are the 2 big. I know there's Frozen and the Princesses, but as far as like things I care about and that show up on my YouTube stream, Star Wars and Marvel are it. They're the big ones, right? So, so it's interesting that they both put out series that are loosely or completely not canon at all, and I think it's a good thing. I'm really happy with that decision for the simple fact that those properties are both so big that that as you continue to add stories and the timeline here and there, that you start to get you start to have a lot fewer choices, and you narrow down a lot of the creativity that can happen when you have to work in with such a tight continuity, right? Like the stuff with Spider-Man is done. We have to accept that Spider-Man is doesn't have the same type of origin that he does in the comics or in the prior movies. That he's more attached to the Avengers and a little bit more. His suit might be a little bit more technologically advanced and whatnot. And his connection to Iron Man and Iron Man's death is much stronger. It's something like you have to accept. You can dislike it, but it would be like too crazy of a retcon. Although he was Spider-Man before he met Tony Stark, so there's always an option to do a prequel there. But that's just an example of how like narrow continuity can be. And when you get something like What If, you can do just so many crazy things with it. You can do a zombie episode. You can do really heart-touching stuff like the Doctor Strange episode, or you could do what happened last week and do a play on Hangover with Thor. And I think episode 2 was really lighthearted. Maybe it was 1. It was the one where Thanos is like drinking with everyone. He's like, he just had some crazy beliefs. He's your buddy. He was your one buddy that like never voted before, but voted for Trump or whatever. He's we should just still kill everyone. That was a great idea. And excuse me. So that was lighthearted, that one. And so we went back to going lighthearted after like zombie episodes and sad Doctor Strange episodes and whatnot. And this one was really silly. And okay, it fits a little bit from Thor: Love and Thunder, because that was an upbeat, sort of funny, wacky sort of film. But this is to the point where the cameos in there and everyone's drinking and partying. This was to the point where it was just explicitly a comedy. But then at the end, it looked like it might get serious, and it confirmed this week with the poster that ending will continue on this week. And so I'm going to spoil it, but it's not that big of a spoiler. So after a whole bunch of silliness, and it was funny and it was enjoyable, and you should watch it. Thor learns his lesson, gets his hand slapped. Captain Marvel and his mother puts him on the right path going forward. But then the episode ends with some version of Ultron Vision showing up, seemingly about to take over the world. So I don't know. I don't really get how they're going to make that, how they're going to jump from, the part 2 to not be silly, but we'll see. We'll see. And I guess Thursday morning, or maybe Friday morning, if I haven't gotten completely sick of this, I will be talking about that too. But overall, What If it's throwaway, but it's just so much fun, and it gives a real opportunity for writers and directors and stuff to be creative within the context of the MCU without like having to adhere so closely to the continuity. And on the same token, that's what Star Wars Visions is. And it looks like none of these are really in continuity. Maybe some of them can sort of fit. And I really just started Star Wars Visions, and I like it a lot. But I've watched 2 episodes, so I'll talk more about them next week probably. But you know, it's definitely in the tweener box because you get this situation, and it feels like I've seen this. Like people complain, Star Wars fans are the worst anyway. But it feels like I've seen this where it seems like it might be too Star Wars for anime fans or too anime for Star Wars fans. And I've talked about that before, that sometimes being in between is a bad thing for marketing. But then again, these are shorts and they're fun, and it's a chance to see working manga directors and writers and artists get their say with Star Wars without having to fit in this, you know, thin continuity. So I've only watched 2. They were completely different. And the first one's called The Duel. And the reason The Duel is interesting is because Star Wars is very influenced by The Hidden Fortress from Kurosawa. I'm like halfway through that. I started watching that about 2 weeks ago, and I enjoy it. I want to watch a lot more Kurosawa. I need to watch a lot more of a few older directors for sure. But Kurosawa is a little bit difficult, right? Because I have to be paying attention because the subtitles right now, as you heard me complain about my kid earlier, it's harder to do subtitles. But it is interesting because so even though Star Wars is very influenced by that Kurosawa film, this short leans more Kurosawa than it does Star Wars, to be honest. Like Seven Samurai even. And it was really good. Animation was beautiful. It was directed by, I wrote these down because, of course, I would never know, Takanobu Mizuno, who's done Mega Man anime. And it was written by Takashi Okazaki. And he's important in our world. For those of you that have watched Batman Ninja, that's on HBO Max. And that was something I tried to put in the background too, and it looks so freaking cool that I stopped it 15 or 20 minutes in, and didn't come back to it. And then it is I guess animated by Kamikaze Duga, who's famous for JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. This one was real good. Of the 2, this is the one I actually liked. And it felt like just classic Japanese cinema in a Star Wars context. So nothing special in that sense, but the animation was beautiful. It was mostly black and white with some color where they sort of fit in color in certain areas, and fight scenes are wonderful. The second one I did not like at all, Tatooine Rhapsody it was called. And that was, theoretically what I just said, and I gave you this whole speech about, there's a chance for them to be creative and do different things. And what if can be funny, or it could be very serious. Tatooine Rhapsody was lighthearted, but the animation was too, I forgot what, chibi. So it was the little dwarf-looking kind of drawings, and Boba Fett looks sort of silly. He looked like a pop doll a little bit, and so there's a little bit of action with Boba Fett. But then the premise of it is that a Hutt, leaves the Hutt world to go become a rock star, and then he's gonna get killed, and then they save him with music. And it's the song at the end is the worst song I've ever heard. I mean, it's not. It's what I expect from anime music. So sometimes when you're watching anime, you'll hear the theme song and it'll be in Japanese, and then it'll just switch to English, and it won't make that much sense, And this song was all in English, and none of it, it just, I guess it made sense. It was just really silly. So it's not something I'd go back to, but I think it has. I also didn't love. I should talk about this also, but I also didn't love the Batman on Webtoon. I thought it was just a little bit too kiddie for me. Not that I need everything adult and grimdark, but they're fighting over like a cookie or something. And this episode seems to me be more for that crowd. Someone would really like it. They just want like a lighthearted, more Star Wars cartoon in a sense. So I'm not going to cut it down, but it was written by Yasumi Adarashi, who did Blood Wing Asylum, but doesn't have very many other credits in the thing called the internet. And Taku Kimura, who is the director, but looks like more famous for voice acting. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure I talk about those. I'll probably be talking about What If or whatever Marvel show comes out, at least in one of these. And then Star Wars, I love Star Wars, and there's a lot of TV shows coming out. One of my favorite things to talk about Star Wars, though, is just the way people that love Star Wars actually hate it. So that's always fun. So look for like the Star Wars world's reaction, and then we can laugh at it together. Hey, and I'm going to end with this. This is a indirect recommendation from D. Piercy's Comics. His address will be below there, and you guys should go check that out. And also from Damien at Sleepy Reader 666. Pretty sure that if you're on this channel, you know who Damien is. But I'll put his address there too, just in case. And this is Lester of the Lesser Gods. Now, both Damien and Dan are not big Goon fans, but they both really like the Goon. And they're, when I hear them talk about it, I often go, well, I got to get into the Goon, and it doesn't seem like it's too tough. They really didn't seem like they were in my library. Maybe they're on Hoopla. I can go there. But yeah, the Goon is also from Eric Powell, something I feel like I want to read in print. But then when I heard them both talk about Lester of the Lesser Gods, and they both, I think Damien had it #1, and Dan clearly thought it was the best of the week that he had read, or at least enough that he was going to talk about it. I go, okay, I got it off eBay. So I actually, paid shipping, in fact, a little bit on top of it. So I didn't go search for it or anything. I knew I would have forgotten. I wanted to read it. Two people I really respect in the community rated it highly. And so I picked it up, and it is funny. Now, Dan said he hasn't laughed out loud in a comic very much. I wouldn't say this made me laugh out loud, but it was, it has this, funny and just silliness that's super enjoyable. And so this guy is Odin's illegitimate son. His mom is just picking up women or dudes at a bar, and Odin happens to go in and does it. And then, 36 years later, this guy comes out, has a little bit of this is the end feel, because the world comes to an end and he has to go save everyone, meets Odin. And there's a real opening. It seems to have been popular with the people who read it. There's a real opening to continue with it. And I would love to continue with this, to be honest, because I've just, I know about Eric Powell tangentially from other people. And like I said, I just haven't gotten into the Goon yet. But for something that I can just grab new and continue to grab, I mean, this character seems like, he seems like a lot of things. Seems like Dio, Jack Black, maybe a little bit of Napoleon Dynamite built in. And then, of course, the sort of Thor Norse character he's making fun of. So if that happened, I would probably jump on it, because I really did enjoy this. And I don't mind that I paid the extra $2 or $3 for shipping or whatever. Anyway, went a little long, 3 minutes longer than I wanted to. So I'm going to end this. Thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for supporting this. I just feel like getting this kind of thing done at least for a week, and then I'll see where it lands me and how much time I actually have to do it. Hopefully the preparation will be a little bit easier once I get it sort of in the right box. So I will see you guys later. Have a great morning. Have a great rest of your day. And thank you for staying to the end. And that's it, my friends.